Let's solve challenge 7. The first thing we want to do is we want to open up Xcode and create a new Xcode project. And we're going to choose iOS application, single view application. And we can give this a product name. So we're going to call this user data challenge solution. And I'm going to give a class prefix of CC here. I'm going to leave all my other information the same. I'm also going to choose iPhone as my device. And I can go ahead and press next. And I'm going to create a Git repository. If you watch the videos on Terminal and Git, you should be able to push your project up to GitHub now. We can press create. So the first thing we need to do is we need to enlarge Xcode. We're going to go ahead and create a new file. So we can go to File, New File. And we need to create a class called User Data. So let's go ahead and we're going to go to Objective-C class, iOS Cocoa Touch. And we're going to make this a subclass of NSObject. And we're going to call this CC user data. We can go ahead and press next. And we're going to make sure we have our target selected here. We can press create. So now we have our user data class. Let's go ahead and drag this down. And if we really want to have our code be very organized, we can go to File, New, Group, and we'll just call this model. And we can drag our user data into that model grouping. And that just makes it a little bit cleaner. So I'm going to go to the ccuser-data.h file, and we need to create a class method that returns an NSArray. So how are we going to do that? Well, we know that class methods start with a plus sign, and we know that we can have a return type from a method, so we're going to return an NSArray. Notice I use the char star here because NSArray is an object. And we're going to simply call this method users. So great, we now have a method named users, a class method named users that returns an NSArray. Let's go ahead and copy this method name. We can go into ccuser-data.m, and we're going to go ahead and implement this method. Well, the first thing we need to do is we need to create an NS dictionary that contains user information. So let's go ahead and we're going to create a few of these first. So we're going to type NS dictionary. And we can write user1 is equal to, and we're going to use our new syntax here, which is at curly braces, and we see it takes a series of key and objects. So for now, we can just write these in with strings. So our first key is going to be username, and we can write colon, and our username is going to be master photographer. And we can go ahead and add a comma because we're going to add another key value pair. So our next key is going to be email. And we're going to do colon, and now we can give it a value. And we're going to say world traveler 1@me.com. And I can go ahead and add another comma because I'm going to add another key value pair. So our user now needs a password. So we can write password, and let's go ahead and make this DROWSSAP, password backwards. And let's add another comma, and we can do another key value pair. So this one is going to be the age, and we're going to use an NS number here, so we can write @24, which creates an NS number object. And finally, we need to give a UI image. So we're going to write profile picture, which will be the key for our image. And we're going to create a UI image object, and we're going to use the class method named ImageNamed. And we're going to pass in person1.jpeg. And let's go ahead and add our right bracket. And we need to add a curly brace to tie out to the curly brace we started for our literal syntax. And finally, we need to finish the semicolon to finish this statement. Now the error we're getting here is we're not currently returning an NSArray, so let's finish creating our user dictionaries and then create an array with all of these user dictionaries in it. So for the second one, we're going to go ahead and write in NS dictionary, user2 is equal to, and we're going to use our literal syntax again. So again, it's a set of key value pairs, and I can go ahead and write username, and we're going to do our value for this, so it's going to be lots of tots, and And I'm going to add another key value pair. So we're going to do one for email next. And we can write otterskips2@me.com. And I can go ahead and add my password. And we're going to do ice cream rocks. And I can go ahead and add an age. So let's do, we're going to do an NS number here. So we can really add 65. And I'm going to go ahead and add an image next, so a profile picture. And let's go ahead and create a UI image object. And we're going to write this is person2.jpg. Oh, I forgot a curly brace here. Curly brace, semicolon. So now our user 2 is set up properly. And we just need to set up our user 3 and 4. So let's go ahead and create another NS dictionary. Let's create user 3. And we're going to do at curly braces because we're going to use our literal syntax again. We're going to do at quote for NS string. We're going to write in username. And let's go ahead and give this a name. So let's call this iTechie. And we can go ahead and give it this user an email, him or her. And we'll say this is email. And we can write the real apple at me.com. And I can go ahead and add a password. And let's make this infinite loop. And we can go ahead and add an age. And we do at 30 for an NS number. And finally, we need an image. So let's do profile picture. And let's do colon UI image named. And we can do person3.jpg, not JPEG, the way we've done for the earlier ones. And that's just the file extension for the files we're going to be adding in just a minute. And it's good to pay attention to what your file extensions are, because if you put JPEG in here instead of JPG, it won't work properly. So you need to be very careful with the way in which you write things in. So let's do our final user dictionary. And we can say that this user needs a username first. And let's give it a value. So we can say this is going to be Royal. And let's do an email next. And let's set that equal to king@me.com. And let's go ahead and give this person a password. And let's do this as I got a palace. And let's go ahead and give this person an age. And let's set this equal to 0. Maybe this person didn't want to tell us their age and they just put 0 in. And finally, let's add a profile picture. And let's say UI image named. And we can say person at quote person4.jpg. Now, finally, we need to create an NS array. Oh, I forgot the curly brace again here. So curly brace semicolon. It's very important to tie out your curly braces and make sure that they match up properly. So let's go ahead and create an NS array, and we're going to return this NS array from this method. And we can say users array is equal to, and we're going to use the at brackets to create an NS array instead of using at curly braces, which we use to create an NS dictionary. So let's go ahead and add our objects here. So we can user1, user2, comma user3, comma user4. So let's go ahead and return this array. And now our method is complete. We were telling our method we were going to return an NS array, and now we're returning an array that has 4 NS dictionary objects inside of it. Notice when we use the literal syntax to create an NS array, we don't need to add nil at the end. So this is just a quick way we can add objects to an NS array instead of having to use the method initialize with objects and pass all of our objects in. If you're still getting used to the literal syntax, that's completely okay. Both ways are valid, but you'll see both used in coding, so it's useful to be familiar with both. So the final step we have here to get this NS dictionary to work properly is to add our person images. So I've already added these to my desktop, and I'm going to drag them into my supporting files. And I'm going to make sure I copy items into destination group folder. And I'm definitely going to make sure I've added the target selected as well. And I can press finish. And now let's go ahead and use this class method so that we can see how to use a class method and see what the return is from this as well. So let's go to ccviewcontroller.m, and let's scroll to the top here, and we're going to import our ccUserData class. And in viewDidLoad, let's just create an NS array for now. We can call this users array, and we can set this equal to our ccUserData, and we'll call our method users on it. And then let's log out our users array. So now that we have our users array being printed, we can go ahead and run our application, and we'll be able to see all the information that's being added to our array and kind of see what our NS dictionaries look like. So I'm going to go ahead and expand my console here so we have a little bit more space to see everything we're looking at, and drag this up. And incidentally, when you're taking a look at debug logs and stuff, it's useful to make this bigger so you can see everything that's going on. There's quite a bit of text in here quite often. And what we see here is we have 4 different dictionary objects. We see that each dictionary object is shown with curly braces, and that there are commas in here because it's an NS array, so it's a list of dictionaries. So we've got 1 dictionary, 2 dictionary, 3, and 4. And it's really useful to print things out because you want to be accustomed to how different objects look when they print out to your console. And we see that for our first user, their age is 24. We have an email for them, a password, we have a profile image, which is actually a UI image object, and we have a username. And notice too, for this NS dictionary, it's reordered the list of this to be in alphabetical order. That's pretty cool. Just like a real dictionary that we might pick up, like Oxford Dictionary, would be in alphabetical order, and NS dictionary works the same way.